So just to kind of recap, like the two things that we talk about today is around using generative AI within M365 Copilot to reason over or ask questions of your information that is either work grounded or web grounded. And when we're talking to customers about this, we talk about the reason why Copilot exists and how it's built in across the M365 applications. There's an immersive view as well. So if you're used to using other AI providers like ChatGPT, for example, it's the same sort of look and feel and capabilities that we have there. We do use the OpenAI models under the covers to surface that up. That is a closed model, by the way, so we don't use your corporate data to train any of the public models, unlike things like ChatGPT. And this is built in across the suite, so we're able to use this as and when we're working throughout our application. So for an Outlook, for example, we can have our Copilot to summarize all of our emails or draft our emails from there. Or if we're over in Word and PowerPoint, we can actually create new content from other content that we might have access to as well, all in the bounds of security, compliance, and privacy. So the same permissions that you have to data, Copilot inherits those permissions as well. So you can't unnecessarily bring something up that you don't have access to. And over on the right-hand side here, we're talking about agents. Agents is a very loose term. If you're used to other platforms as well, it's a combination of kind of workflows, agents, and automation. Think of agents as being a specialist for a repeatable task. So when we're using this within SharePoint, for example, we're able to reason over a SharePoint site to find the information that we need. In that way, we can have a conversation with those agents as well, but we can also create our own custom agents that are specialized in things that we do. So a set of agents that I use personally are things like a copywriter app. Copywriter agent. So that understands how I write, what my tone of voice is, like how I structure my writing. So I've taught the agent on how to do this with examples of my previous work. And then I can call on that agent to write things like reports or do social media marketing or other pieces like that. So those are the kind of key differences. This session today is predominantly around agents. And there's a couple of different ways that you can use an agent. Some of that is around kind of retrieval, like I just said, around SharePoint and retrieving information or the context of information that you're asking the agent about. We can also do tasks as well. So if there's certain actions we want this agent to take, for example, I might be having a conversation with this agent and then I'm asking it to actually email that content out. We can have actions or tasks that will automatically take all of that conversation that we're having with the agent, fill out the two box with the email address it's going to go to, the subject, and the body of that email. So it's very, very powerful to do that. And on to the advanced side is the autonomous agents. So that's where we can have an agent that is either human in the loop, so we can trigger it somehow. That might be copying a document or a new file into a SharePoint site or a OneDrive site, for example, and then having that as a trigger then to reason over what it should do. And that might be that when a new invoice is put into that SharePoint site, it automatically pulls out the important parts of that invoice and then automatically puts that into a spreadsheet or notifies the finance team for us. So that can be human in the loop, but it can also be fully autonomous as well. So once it's set up, it has its triggers and it has its actions as well. Did you have a question, Alice? No? Okay.
No, all good. Sorry, I realised it wasn't on mute.
That's fine.
Surprised you weren't distracted by the noise in the office. So yeah, I am officially going on mute now.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, it's really weird being in the office as well. This is a rare occasion for me. So there's people wondering who this guy is in the corner of the office actually talking. But there we go. So the way that we are today, I think, is we're just getting used to using things like generative AI to do certain tasks. There's people I talk to where they're trying to get Copilot or agents to do like a huge task that they want to resolve. But you really need to kind of break down those individual tasks into more kind of manageable chunks. So Generative AI is really cool. It's very powerful, but sometimes it doesn't understand all the different parts of this really complex set of tasks that you do as a human being on a daily basis. So we're talking about kind of where and when to use things like Copilot versus when you're using agents. Now, there's nothing stopping you creating like a super cool prompt that does your task or does a bit of your work every day, and you could copy and paste that prompt in rather than remembering what it is. We can actually take that prompt if it is a repeatable process and actually put that into an agent. So every time I want to do that process or that task, I can go to that agent and say, well, here's the content, just do your thing. And it knows what to do with a set of instructions then. And underneath the covers, this looks a little bit like this. So this is an autonomy of the agent. So there's a wide range of different use cases and scenarios that we talk to customers with. Like we talk about the technology, but it's really around understanding a business process or something that you know really well today that then we can transfer into an agent that does those series of tasks for you. And we talk about this orchestrator. This is the brain of the agent. So these are the general instructions. So you're going to tell it its purpose, the things it should go away and do. You're going to tell it the things that you don't want it to do. And these are the specific outcomes that you want when you interact with that agent. And then using that brain, that orchestrator, it goes off and decides on its own where it should get that knowledge from. So is it getting that from your SharePoint site? Is it getting that from the internet? Is it taking information from your line of business applications? We can also have a set of skills that we talked about, like those actions. Go away and automatically email someone, or go away and create some new content for me. Those skills can also call other agents as well. So we're really going to skim the surface of what agents are today in this session, but know that there's extra power when it comes to combining the Microsoft technologies together. So we're talking about M365 Copilot, but we're also talking about SharePoint agents. We're talking about Copilot Studio. We're talking about AI Foundry. We're talking about business applications. Like there's multiple sets of technologies behind the scenes here that we can all interconnect to do those more complex use cases if we need to. And I'll cover that in the next couple of slides. We'll skip this one for now. We'll go to this one. This is a really good slide in my point of view to really understand like where and when you should create agents. So I'm just going to bring up a pen here for a moment. So over on the left-hand side, M365 Copilot is the paid version of Copilot. So that's the $30 per user per month. There's also a free version or an included version within your M365 suite, whether you're an F1 user right up to E3, E5. And that's called Copilot Chat. And that has a subset of capabilities that you can just turn on and use today at no cost. So that free version, you don't get things like reasoning over SharePoint or your work documents. But what you can do is you can upload a copy of content and ask questions or prompts of that content there. That actually saves that file in your OneDrive for Business site. So you're protected from a security compliance perspective, but it's that kind of first step into using a generative AI within your workplace that is secured. It comes with the same enterprise data security as well. We don't train any public models with that. So you don't necessarily have to go through and buy the paid license for everyone unnecessarily, but you could start off with the Copilot Chat and then see uses within your business then to then maybe up to M365 Copilot paid. And the benefits of that is Copilot then is embedded across all of the M365 applications, whereas Copilot Chat is predominantly just in the immersive view. And I'll show you the immersive view in a second. The models that we're using under the covers, these foundational models that you're seeing in the bottom, that's where we're using OpenAI's GPT-4o models. So again, they're closed. We're not training any public models there. But again, we can use those models to ask questions of the model itself, or we can talk or find about our emails or our files or our meetings or our chats. Like we can ask Copilot to bring all of that information in for us. So that's where we're using our prompts. When we're talking about creating agents, this is kind of the initial place that you would create an agent that you personally use. So think of this like if you're using OneDrive for Business, like by default, it's a place that you can store your working files that nobody else has access to unless you share that out. So you create a set of permissions under the covers and you're sharing out a link to that file, right? And the same principle goes with Agent Builder and creating agents there. So you're creating an agent that you can use, but you can share out. And under the covers is actually stored as a, whatever the name of the agent is, .agent file. Can never draw with a mouse, I'm sorry. So this is creating a file for you, just like when you create a Word document and you put that into your OneDrive, it's creating a .agent file, and then you can share access to that. And that agent is or can be grounded by the internet or can be grounded by SharePoint. We can have our custom instructions, our general instructions there about the nuance about what that agent's going to do. You've noticed there's some actions coming soon as well for these types of declarative agents. And then you could do, just like I've done, is create that copywriter or that task agent that knows how I work and how I break down those individual tasks and how I prioritize. But if that's really useful for somebody else in the business or other groups of people within the business, you can share that out too, which is nice. The other type of declarative agents, notice there's a divider here, I'll explain what that divider is in a moment, is we can head over to Copilot Studio and create other kinds of agents over there as well. They can do a similar sort of thing, but they got a lot more power. So not only can we have knowledge which is based on SharePoint or web grounding, but now we can call in different connectors. So you can have a series of built connectors that are curated by Microsoft, things like ServiceNow or like SAP, for example, to go out to kind of business line applications. But you can also create custom connectors there as well. We're also working on a few other connectors behind the scenes here that maybe we'll get into. We can have our general instructions, what the brain of this agent is going to do. And now we have actions over here as well. So we've got the power of calling out to Power Platform to do more complex workflows. We've got tight integration into Adobe, and we can call out to custom APIs. So the custom APIs bit might be that you're calling either external APIs to line of business applications, or it might be other models, AI models that you want to call out to. So that gives you that extra power there as well. Notice that when we're creating an agent in Agent Builder, so this is these individual agents or agents that are created in SharePoint, that is creating this .agent file underneath. So when I'm talking to customers about kind of agent sprawl, or how do we manage or how do we govern agents that are created, like it's exactly the same principle as governing Word or Excel or PowerPoint files. So they're files underneath. We can use things like data loss prevention, so we can monitor or prevent access to that information. We have sharing permissions as well. So just like sharing out from your OneDrive for Business, you can choose who you're sharing with, or you can restrict access to that. If it's created within SharePoint, for example, those .agent files are stored within the SharePoint library. So again, we have permissions, we have e-discovery, we've got different ways in order to manage and maintain that information. Just going to pause there for a second. Any questions on that before I talk about declarative agents in Copilot Studio? Okay, I'll just carry on. So when we talk about Copilot Studio, this is a totally separate tool. So it's not creating a .agent file, it's creating a set of files, the manifest of that application, that program, that agent. It's the same thing. And we can use Power Platform to create what's called solutions. So if I'm creating an agent, I can package this up. I can publish it, so an admin can decide whether that's something that needs to go to the entire organization or not, or a certain group of people or not. And I have the same conversations, like you're able to create agents today, but who gets access to that is really up to you or your IT admins. And that's built in, that process, into Copilot Studio and those packages. And hopefully I'll show you that in a second. Now, aside to all of that on the sort of left-hand side of this big bar here, we've also got something that confuses quite a lot of people, is this kind of pro developer piece, these custom engine agents. And I'll show you the difference, because when we go into Copilot Studio, you'll see probably custom engine agents first, because the declarative agents in Copilot Studio is slightly hidden away, and you'll be able to spot the differences, because within the declarative agents over here, you get like a subset of things that you can do. When we go into custom engine agents in Copilot Studio, the same place, you'll see a series of different tabs and extra capabilities that you can do in there. And to extend on top of that, we're using a combination of different technologies from Azure, from AI Foundry, from Power Platform, and we're combining all of that together to do more complex agents, like bring your own models. If you wanted to use Mistral, for example, as a model, you could use that. If you wanted to use DeepSeek as a model, you could bring that in as well. So that's using all the different components and these custom APIs that you see on the screen in order to do that. So we'll show you that in a second. There is, as I'm using PowerPoint Live on here, you can actually click on these links on the screen, by the way. But here's a capabilities chart just to show you, like, of all of those different technologies I keep talking about, like when to use what. And I know there's some colleagues and friends on the call as well. We've had very deep conversations about this. Like a customer or yourselves will come with a certain use case, and you're trying to figure out what technology to use when. I've got some customers that have built very complex agents over in Azure, just purely because like Copilot Studio wasn't available at the time. And now we're having conversation to decipher whether it's something they bring across to Copilot Studio and use the orchestration piece and the ability to use more of the Power Platform capabilities to build it in there, ready for the new next thing that comes within Copilot Studio, right? So there's just in the slide for a second, there is an event coming up next month, which is Microsoft Build. That's predominantly where we announce some really cool features or new products. I think that's the 17th of May. I'll ask Louise to grab the link and put it in the chat window for us. But that would be an event really to keep a closer eye on, especially around all of these technologies that I've got on the screen here. And just to kind of finish off this slide for a second, at the very bottom, you can see there's a reporting and monitoring. So you can click on these links and actually take you to the Microsoft documentation that explains fairly well about how to govern all of those different technologies and then how they all hang together as well. Thank you, Louise. Okay, let's jump into a bit of a demo. Let's show you those declarative agents over in M365 versus SharePoint versus Copilot Studio. So let me just switch screens for a second. And we're just going to jump to this one. I said there was a slightly weird setup that I have here, but that's, bear with it. Here we go. Okay, so we're over here in the immersive view of Copilot. This is where we can ask prompts or questions of our work or web-based grounded content, or of the model itself, by the way. And then over on the right-hand side, we've got access to all of the built-in and the agents that I have built. So you can see there's quite a few here. Now, to create a new agent in here, a declarative agent, it's going to open up this this user interface, and there's a couple of things to note. Even though this says Copilot Studio at the very top, think of it as more of a marketing piece from Microsoft. So this is actually called Agent Builder. It's like a super easy way of creating an agent that is independent to you for the moment, but we can share that out if we need to. And this is where we can have a conversation to this agent, which will actually build out the custom instructions for us. So it could be, I want you to be a finance or financial tax advisor. And we can have a conversation in natural language that actually build out that configuration for you. Now, I'm not going to build this out fully because I've got some other things that to show you, but you'll see of that very small prompt that I've put in here, it's going to ask me a series of questions to build that out, but it's done a fairly good job at automatically creating the starter questions. So these are the questions that people will see and have an understanding about what kinds of questions they can ask those agents. So we can click on those. We can skip that, by the way. We can just jump to the configure tab and we can give it a name. We can give it a description about what the purpose is of this agent. And we also have some custom instructions in here as well. The other thing to note here is when I click on it, we have up to 8,000 characters we can write in here. So this really small box, when this first came out, you couldn't actually expand this. And we didn't say how many characters you could write in here, but the more information you put in here, the better it is. And the reason for that is a bit like if you've got a new employee and you have to explain a process to this new employee, you have to tell them everything. Like they don't know what they don't know, right? So you're giving them the step-by-step about why we do certain things, why we don't do certain things, what the outcome should be, who it goes to, right? You're going to tell this agent exactly that. And this probably won't work like you want it to on the first try. You're going to have to work a little bit harder in order to test the agent. This is why you get this box on the right-hand side here. And it doesn't like tax issues. I'll explain what that is in a minute, live demos for you. But you're going to have to explain exactly what all the steps are in order to achieve the thing you want to do. Now, built into this platform, this declarative agent, as this demo just shown, it has responsible AI built into it. So it's not like going to a public model like ChatGPT or Gemini, for example, where you can just ask it anything, well, nearly anything. They do have protections built into it. But we have a set of capabilities that is checking the questions that you're asking of Copilot. It's gathering that information, so it's grounded in that information it's bringing back. And then Copilot and these responsible AI restrictions are actually checking what information it's giving back to you. So what it's saying here is like, I'm not going to go away and tell you anything around sort of financial advice or tax reductions because I might not give you the right answer. So there's restrictions in place for that. There are some ways around it. Sometimes you do hit some of those restrictions, but it might be articulating in a slightly different way that that not just overcomes that type of issue, but making sure that you're using these technologies in the right way. So again, this is all built in. As part of this agent, we can also give it knowledge. So we can have this internet grounded or web grounded. We can call out different specific websites or SharePoint locations that we can ground it with the information that we need. So if this was a working financial agent, then we could point it at maybe our legal site, or maybe it was a HR agent to reason over CVs, for example. We could point at the location of those CVs. We have some extra capabilities in here around code interpreter. This is where we're using a programming language to understand in depth different types of files. So this is really good when looking at Excel files, for example. And we've got image generator. And here's all of my kind of pre-built from our conversation earlier, the starter prompts that we're getting back. So I can use this as like a quick win when I create a new chat. Not only is this for new people that are coming into this agent, but I use this quite regularly as well. So rather than trying to have a conversation, I can have a really quick prompt that just comes up and I can tag on the extra information to that if need be. And that's it. That's our very simple declarative agent. Now, when I hit create, it's going to go away and create that .agent file under the covers. Now, you as a user, you don't see that. You don't have access to that .agent file, although we can use extra capabilities within the M365 platform to monitor for that. But if I take you to one that I created earlier, let's try my copywriter one. You'll notice as well, if you want to edit one, if you click on the ellipsis, you don't get edit, you get uninstall. So for now, you need to click on create an agent, and at the very top left here, this is where I can list all of my agents that I've created. So in here, I've got my copywriter, and then I can edit it from here. It trips up a few people about how you go back in and edit and change these settings, but that's how you do it. And here you can see that I've got a much better and working agent, by the way. And I've just put these little kind of hashes and asterisks in here just to kind of break down all of the components that make up this agent. So it's easier for me to read and adjust and change, but also a lot easier for the agent and the underlying AI model to read and understand as well. So in here you can see my tone of voice. I will give it some examples as well of stuff that I've worked on in the past. And I've also given it a series of steps as well. So I can say step 1, this is what I want you to do. And once you've completed that task, here's your second task, for example. So this is how I actually build out my prompts there. My instructions there. Okay. The thing I wanted to show you in here, because this is the governance session, is if I hit save or update, only I have access to it. I can share this out, so I can click on the share button. And just like you do within OneDrive, I have this sharing link that I can copy and paste, and I can stipulate who has access to this underlying file that I control. Of course, if I leave the organization or if I delete this agent, the file underneath also gets deleted as well. So those people will lose access to that. And that's where you might want to create a declarative agent over in Copilot Studio because it's managed centrally. So you can control that then. Okay. If we head over to SharePoint, this is another type of agent that we can create. So this is separate to those declarative agents that we just shown. We're going to jump into a SharePoint site for a second. Not necessarily that one. I should have a bids and tenders, a bids and proposals one. And if you've given access to people in the organization the ability to create agents, you'll see this Copilot coin at the very top right here. And every site will have a general agent that's set up for them. So this is where you can find and do research of the information within this site. But also you can create your own. So if you click on the ellipsis here, eventually, this one, we can click on create an agent. And the process is exactly the same as what I just shown you in M365 Copilot. But remember, this time we're creating that .agent file, but it lives within this SharePoint site. So we can have agents in other sites that are referencing other sites, right? Does that make sense? So I could be in the bids and tenders or bids and proposals site, but I could have an agent that lives in here that reasons over the legal site, for example, because I don't want to keep changing my focus every time I want to use a specific agent. The agent, by the way, still inherits the permissions that the user does. So if I'm using the legal agent and I don't have access to legal, I don't have access to that information. So again, the underlying security, privacy, and compliance is all built into these agents as well. Okay, so again, same principle about creating an agent here. We give it a name, we give it a description. We've got the sources now, which is just looking at SharePoint, but that can be the entire site. It can be documents, libraries, folders, and files. And then the behavior then is where I can write a welcome message to those users, the starter prompts that we talked about earlier on, and this very small but big box to actually write our custom instructions within here. And then we can hit save. So when I hit save, as long as I'm a site owner, I will have access to go in, create the agents, and actually edit these agents. And by default, it doesn't publish this out to the site. There's some special things I have to do here. So if I click on the little drop down in SharePoint agents again, and let's find an agent that I've not published yet. This sustainability agent, I don't think I have. When I open that and I click on the ellipsis, I can set this as approved. So once it's approved, because I'm a site owner, everybody else will be able to use that agent within the site. And what it's doing under the cover is actually moving that .agent file into an approved area, so everybody can have access to that. And you can see that. So again, as long as I'm a site owner, I can click on the cog here, go to site contents, and we're going to go down into site assets. And we've got a folder here that's called Copilots. So this automatically gets created for you. This isn't something you have to go away and do, by the way. And as and when I'm creating those agents within SharePoint, it's actually building these .agent files that I keep talking about. So the ones in here are the ones that are not approved for the site. When I hit that set as approved button, it actually moves. It's very complicated, this, but not. It actually moves the .agent file into this approved folder. And this is where I can see all of the approved agents for this site as well. So again, just like when you're creating a Word document or Excel, we control the permissions, of course, and who can access those certain files. And the same principle is with these agent files as well. So again, we can go in and we could change the permissions, or we can manage access of these files at the end of the day. We can set up data loss prevention policies to ensure that it's not shared with the wrong people. We can put monitoring on that as well, by the way. So we could use things like the SharePoint search or a custom search to show us all of the .agent files. So let's test fate for a second. Let's do .agent. Now again, I've got access to this entire site, but here I can just use the search because they're just files, and then show me all of the agent files that live within here. We're still in the folder, of course, but you get the principle of this. It's a file. We can control files, right? Okay, so I've shown you individual agents that we can share. I've shown you agents now within SharePoint. These are separate agent files, but they live within SharePoint. The next is to head over to Copilot Studio. So let's go into Copilot Studio. This is a separate type of agent again that we create over here. I'm just going to bring up my Teams as well so I can monitor the chat. And there's a couple of things to note. As you've accessed copilotstudio.microsoft.com, you're kind of faced with this home page. And now you can see all of the agents that have been created. But if we go over to agents, there's a couple of things I want to call out to you. The agents that you're creating within here, if I click on new agents, are called custom engine agents. So these are the complex agents. If you cast your mind back to that initial slide, let me just bring it up, is this one on the far right. Okay, it doesn't tell you that it's a custom engine agent, but it is. If you want to create a declarative agent, which is this one over here, this declarative agent in Copilot Studio, is slightly hidden away. So what you want to do is scroll right down to the bottom, and you'll see this Copilot for Microsoft 365. So if you click on that, it gives you a new user interface, and it'll give you access to the declarative agents that have been created once it loads. And this is where we can create those cut down versions of declarative agents in Copilot Studio that we can manage and publish out and control this way as well. So here's our test declarative agent, lovely. But when I go into this or I hit new, the principle is the same in actually creating the agent, as in we give it a name, we give it a description, we give it the brain, so the orchestration, the general instructions, and we tell it what the actions are or the web grounding, for example, and the knowledge. But you'll see at the very top that there's only a subset of things that we can do in here. So this is a really light declarative agent. It's non-complex. The only bit extra that we don't get over in M365 Copilot for now is actions. Right? So when we click on actions, behind the scenes here, it's calling different connectors, or it's calling Power Platform, Power Automate. We can click on new actions here to do custom connectors. We can do REST APIs to call out to line of business applications or other services outside of this, which is pretty neat. And some extra capabilities when it comes to AI Builder, which we're not going to cover today. So there's a lot of power in here. So if I wanted this agent or this declarative agent to send an email, I would write send email. I've got to love the Wi-Fi in the office today. And you can see I've got options in here as part of Power Automate to send an email using my M365 Outlook. These are the consumer versions, by the way, and all of the third-party integrations that we have here as well. So this is like super powerful in order to set up a more complex agent. But like I said, the principle is the same. We can edit this, we can give it a description, we can give it as much information as possible for how this agent is going to work and its purpose. Again, up to 8,000 characters. Knowledge within here, we can choose between SharePoint or Dataverse, or we can actually upload content directly to this agent that under the covers stores it in Dataverse, by the way. And under advanced, you can see that there's nothing here right now. I can show unavailable to show you what is coming, by the way. These are some of the integrations that you'll be able to choose in the very near future. So they're quite extensive and there's more to come. And once we're happy with that, we can hit publish. So because this is a super basic agent right now, I'm just going to pop back to my slides and show you what that looks like. Publishing, here we go. So when I hit that publish button, I'm faced with this user interface. So I might be a normal user, a non-admin. I can type in what my agent name is, the description, the long description about like what this agent actually does for other people in the business to use it. Maybe my name, because I'm the creator of this, and then maybe some help or some privacy information. And when I hit publish, then I get these series of options. Just like we saw over in M365 Copilot, when I'm creating individual agents, it says, well, do you just want to share it with your teammates or specific users, or do you want to share it with everyone in the organization? And some other capabilities in here, we can download the manifest of the agent if we wanted to. And when I hit done and I choose who I'm going to send it with, I get this interface here. So it says, hey, you're going to share this with the entire organization. So admins will be alerted to this. And I'll show you where they go to find this alert. And when you click yes, you get this box on the bottom right here. So it's going to send the agent to my admin. So when we're talking about governance, it's not just like you've created an agent and everyone can use it right out of the box. We can have a series of gates here as well. So an admin can review this agent, decide, well, is it going to be any use for everyone in the organization, or is it something that doesn't quite fit, or maybe there's another agent that already exists? The admin will have control and approval or denial of that agent going forward. So let's show you what that looks like. This is just another example for a second where I can share the certain permissions out with the team members. So here I'm giving this person editor rights, they can use Power Automate, and so on and so forth. But you can restrict those permissions as well, just like you would with a file within SharePoint, for example. And once we've hit publish, this is what the admin sees. So you can see this over in the M365 Admin Center. If we go down to settings and down into integrated apps, you'll see these requested applications, this new tab. There's actually two new tabs, which is requested apps and shared agents. Shared agents, which I think I'll show you in the next slide, is where you can see all of those individual agents, the ones that you created over in M365 Copilot, that have been shared out with people. So you have control there as well. But for now, an admin can read through the details that the users put in, and then right down the bottom, we've got this published or reject. So we have overall control as admins in order to do that. Custom engine agents, which I should show you what they look like. So we created a declarative agent. If I go back to create, this is where we can create custom engine agents. So I'm just going to go back to this initial slide again. So this is where we're going to create this, what says Pro Developer, but you can do no code or low code in here as well in Copilot Studio. And that gives you extra power. So you can go in and create a new agent. The principle is the same. You give it a name. You have a conversation with this if you want to, or you can skip to configure. We give it a description, we give it instructions, we give starter prompts, there's knowledge. But in true Blue Peter fashion, let's go to one that I created earlier. We'll go into this autonomous agent. This is where now we have the full power of Copilot Studio, and then we can call out to other capabilities that we don't have as part of declarative agents. So the same look and feel, but now when I click on Add Knowledge, not only do I get SharePoint Dataverse, I get public websites, and I can stipulate what those public websites are. I can click on Advanced. Now I can call out to Azure AI Search, for example, to get information from Azure. Again, we can click on Show and Available, these things that are coming very soon. You probably saw Microsoft Fabric for a little bit. It got retracted just to do some bug fixes, but again, that's coming shortly. And then a whole raft of different connectors that we've got access to in here, namely things like custom connectors. So if you've used or heard of, Model Context Protocol or computer use, those new capabilities that are coming, you'll be able to pull in those features as well. We also got actions, and now we got triggers. So under the covers, we're using Power Automate to do actions and triggers or custom connectors. And when I click on these, you can see that it'll open up a new tab and actually take me to Power Platform. Again, Power Platform has its own data loss prevention policies, its own restrictions, its own permissions. It uses solutions, to package up these agents for you. So I had one customer last week, they were saying, well, how do we manage from like dev and test of an agent right up to like having like the generally available version of the agent? I'm like, yeah. If you use the Power Platform, you can use solutions in order to package up those agents or that software or that package in that way as well. So you can go through those life cycles. I do have a link in the resources section that kind of takes you through all of that towards the end of this deck. So again, we're using the power of Power Platform, pun intended, and this is where we can call out when when things are triggered, like an email, and then send it back to the agent of choice. And then we can also do actions. The cool thing about this is because we're using generative AI, it actually fills out all of the information for us. So if we go to inputs, it's dynamically filling with the best option that it decides from the information it has about who it's going to send it to, the subject, the body, and all of the information. We don't have to fill this in. We don't have to tell the agent any more than that. It's going to go away and work all of this stuff out for us. So there's lots of other tabs up here that I'm not going to have time to go through today, but this is a custom engine agent where we can do things like topics, so we can guide the conversation in different routes. We can have knowledge in here as well, which I've already covered. We can fine tune how well or the accuracy of that information that's being brought back. And we can choose a series of different models as well now. So under the covers in these custom engine agents, we're using GPT-4o and 4o mini. O1 is in here as well. And you can find that by clicking on the settings button, heading over to generative AI. You've got to have generative AI turned on. This is generally available now. And you'll get this option at the very bottom here, which is deep reasoning models. So again, I'm not going to have time to go through this, but in your general instructions, you will say this task requires deep reasoning, and the agent's able to understand that in natural language and actually use the OpenAI O1 models under the covers if this is activated. Another thing to call out within here as well, these enhanced search results ideally needs to be turned on. You need to have at least one paid M365 Copilot license in your tenant. That's just one. And this enables something called the semantic index or vectorization of your content that is stored within SharePoint. So that's like synonyms of data. So it'll be a lot more accurate in understanding and deciphering what the question is you're asking of the agent, and then bringing and retrieving that information back from SharePoint. So two things that you need, or three things that you need to go away and turn on today if you haven't already. Jumping back to slides. Maybe this should be like a two-part session because there's so much stuff to go through today. Let's just show you what that looks like when you publish a custom engine agent. So again, the principle is slightly the same, but different. Because we're using Power Platform under the covers, now it's given us an app ID and we can download that manifest. But we can also submit this for admin approval that we can see in the bottom right here as well. And again, the admin will get a notification of this custom engine agent. So this one at the very top here now, that is published pending, and they're able to review that information, decide whether that is published out to the organization or a subset of the organization in that way as well. But again, that still has control over, so the app has control over who sees that agent, who has permissions to see it. The admin has control over this as well. They're able to go into Power Platform and use something called cat tools for the moment. You need to go away and bring that information, but Power Cat Tools is an add-on that you can have that will give you the insights to all of the agents you have across Power Platform. Extremely powerful, and you're able to see the usage of those agents as well, which we'll go into in a second. Licensing. Wow, we had this towards the end. So there's 3 different options for licensing when it comes to agents. And I was speaking with a friend last night who works in a totally different industry, but they still weren't told the right information that they've been told. Well, I've been told them to go back and just double check on the information they've been provided, because there are 3 different options. You can pay for the M365 Copilot license at $30 per user per month, and that user is able to use across the M365 applications Copilot, and they can also use agents as well. So there's no capacity limits to that, unless they are using things like triggers or they're using things like autonomous agents. Now, there is a very good matrix on the Microsoft site. This is in the deck here as well, and it'll break down when things might cost that paid user or not. Predominantly, if they're using things like their own agents that they've created, or they've headed over to SharePoint to use agents there's no additional cost. If they're using autonomous agents like powered by Copilot, powered by Copilot Studio, then there might be additional costs that you need to be aware of. You can also do pay as you go. So there's a rate card. It starts at 1 message at $1. But again, if you're using more of the advanced capabilities or the advanced models like the O1 deep reasoning, then there's a number of messages that are consumed within that interaction. So again, I'll show you that in a second. And lastly, there's a prepaid packs. So as a tenant now, you could pay the $200 per pack per month. That's covered for the entire tenant, and that gives you access to 25,000 messages a month. So anyone can use that. You can control who can use agents, by the way, as well. It's not like everybody. You don't have to open it for everyone. You could have like a pool of proof of concept people that are trying out new agents, and they have access to not just create agents, but use it in that way. So that's all done within the M365 Admin Center or the Power Platform Admin Center as well. Again, there are links towards the end of this deck that takes you into a fully fledged matrix of when things cost what. A couple of things to call out here. Like I said, I don't want to burn the rest of the time that we have, but for M365 Copilot users, like access to generative answers or web grounding or tenant grounding, so work data that you have access to, is all included within that license. But there are some nuances towards the end depending on the advanced capabilities that you're using. Whereas if you've got a set of users or part of your organization that's using Copilot Chat, so the free version that's included within your enterprise M365 enterprise agreement, then they will start to consume a number of messages when they're using agents. So again, the next question I get is, well, how do we calculate how much an agent is going to cost? So we do internally have access to a set of calculators that we can help you to understand what that cost potentially could be. There are some unofficial calculators as well that have been produced by Microsoft employees, but they're not official, but they give you a good indication about what the potential cost and calculations could be, or you can create your own. The documentation actually breaks down a series of different examples so you can understand what the potential burn rate of those messages are. Advice would be, if you have, or you should, light up Copilot Chat for everyone, so they've got access to a secure generative AI tool, is being able to have the prepaid message pack, and then towards the end have the pay-as-you-go. So you don't want somebody kind of burning through all of those message packs and then everything stops for everyone. You probably want a pay-as-you-go and a prepaid pack for that as well. But again, in this deck gives you a series of different examples about what the potential cost of that might be. Louise, if you're still there, I can't actually see the chat anymore as I'm going through the slides, so let me know if there's any questions.
I'm trying to answer as I go, as we get questions through, but hopefully everyone will have access to it, and you can double check my answers as well as we go along. But thank you everyone for all your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. If there aren't any that we're able to address on this call today, I will go back through the chat after the session. Feel free as well to reach out to Louise or I, and then we can answer those questions there as well. So I've already shown you some of the Copilot control system. The idea is this is a place where you can have an overview of all of those agents, so declarative agents that we talked about. And we're making some changes on the covers to actually make this better and more fully fledged around that governance. Let me just come out of the slides for a second and I'll show you where this lives. So if we head back over to the M365 Admin Center, somewhere over here, he says, don't have it open already, nope, there's something called a Copilot Control Center. Here it is at the very top. So when we click into here, this is where you're going to start to see all of the new capabilities and the new monitoring and the new governance tools that are going to be available. This is a great resource as well to understand like who has a license and who's using what as part of Copilot. But if we go across to the settings tab, this is where we can control things like agents. So this is like managing apps, so we can decide who has access to agents or extensions. Is it everyone in the organization? Is it no people in the organization? Or is it specific users and groups? So this is how you can control who can access agents or the agent capabilities. If you wanted to enable Copilot chat, so the included version, the unpaid version of Copilot, you can do that by pinning this to the navigation bar. So that pins it to Windows that you can see down here. You'll see I've got two, by the way. There's a purpose for this. So this one on the left without the M365 logo is the older version. So you want to make sure that's unpinned, and you want this one that says M365. And when you click on that, it'll open up the Copilot app. And this is the same look and feel for the Copilot chat users as to the paid users. The only difference is they won't get the toggle at the top where they can change from work to web grounded. They just get web grounded, or they can upload a file and then reason over that file or ask questions over that file then. From I think it's the 1st of May, this will automatically be turned on, by the way. So you should have this on already, by the way. But if you don't, you can actually pin that today, and it'll pin it for everyone. From the 1st of May, this will automatically be turned on unless you say otherwise. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Anything else I wanted to show you in here? No, apart from you can turn off web grounding as well for users if you don't want people going out and using the Bing APIs. Again, we don't take that information from a privacy point of view and then train Bing. We're using the secure APIs to take the nuance of the question or the search. We strip off any headers, so any identifiable information for you as a tenant or an organization and a user, send that out to Bing. It collects the results, and then we retranslate what the end user asked for and then give them the result back. So there's extra capabilities and privacy built into that. But again, we're not training Bing or using those APIs in any of your data. It's secured and private in that way. Again, if you want a deeper dive on that or a one-to-one session, we can set that up. So like I said, you're able to control things in here. The other thing I want to show you in the last 60 seconds is if we go down to settings and integrated apps, we go to shared agents. This is where you see those declarative agents that are created in M365 Copilot, all these ones that are shared out and created, and you can see they're available. For now, you can actually block these shared agents from within the admin portal. Soon you'll be able to see extra controls within here as well. But for now, this is where you can see all of your agents that are created as part of M365 Copilot. So you have overarching control there. Remember, these are just files at the end of the day as well. So if you did want to use the LP and set that up, you can. You can monitor or block or change access to those as you see fit. We are at time. I probably got another 10, 20 minutes to go through. Maybe I'll do a follow-up session after this. But again, we'll share the slides. If there are any final questions or if you want to stay on for a couple of more minutes, I've probably got 5 more minutes before I need to jump to my next meeting. But just want to say thank you very much for your time today and joining us on this call.